Okay, here we go. 1116. Anything that has to do with ones and sixes, like I always, especially 2 1s and a 6, 2 1s and a 9, whether the 6 is 611 or 911 or 116 or 119, it always stands out to me as a very bizarre pattern. And I don't know if that's because growing up with a base 10 system in America, like that's how we were taught, as we were growing up. And then when I went off to learn French, I realized that French is completely different. Now I know this is just right off the bat. I mean, good grief. What's the difference between French numerals and Arabic numerals and Roman numerals? And if we sit back for about 5 seconds, we start realizing, hey, these languages do carry different symbols for the same thing that we all collectively decide, hey, 1 is 1 and 2 is 2. But we promote different symbols for them. But I would say these patterns that, you have to work really hard to start seeing them. But once you start seeing them, you have to go, okay, if no one else is seeing them, what does that mean for me? What does that qualify me as? What does that make me? If I can sit there and I can remove myself from the mainstream politics of my society and sit back and observe it and say, hey, I'm a conscious observer. I'm not going to participate in your baloney crap anymore. It's like you can ask me to be a part of the reality TV show, but it's like I don't have to be. I can remove myself in a multitude of ways while still commenting on how silly the whole situation is. And that's exactly what this stream is about. If you're new in here, I don't, pretty much mod the chat. I don't mod anything. Like, so if you come in here and you're like, oh, I'm going to do something silly and dumb, or I'm going to try and promote something. I was like, I don't ask for money here. I don't try to ask for people to give me anything other. Like, if you want to give me a donation, I go, good on you. But it is definitely not required to be a part of this world. And the whole emoji thing and, how people are like, I want to be able to clap for things and I want to be able to do things. It's like, it's whatever. Bring whatever you want. Goof off with whatever you want. Today, we like every day, we're going to talk a little bit about politics. We're going to talk about mysticism. We're going to talk about religion. We're going to talk about how all this stuff intertwines and what brought me to decide that, twitching was the ultimate outlet that I wanted to start messing with, because everything sort of rubbed me the wrong way about YouTube. Everything rubbed me the wrong way about how people were being told to be creators and create content. Like, for example, like the stuff that I'm about to play right now, like this song right here. I'm just playing over the top of it. I didn't create it. I didn't create it at all, but it's a fun little lick. It's literally 3 chords over and over again that you can play over the top of. And so I'm probably going to play for the next 5 to 10 minutes, let people roll in. And if you do come in, just say, hey, what's up? And, here in about, like I said, 5 to 10 minutes, we're going to get into it. So just sit back, relax, and enjoy. Oh, I also play the guitar really badly. right, we're going to go ahead and chill this out for a second. Anyway, let's go ahead and move over here. If you're in the chat and you just showed up and you want to say hi, my name's Ted, and I am Time Dad Alpha. I am having a wonderful morning this morning, and it is just so gorgeous. I went and hung out by the pool, came home, decided to hang out. Well, actually, I was up at like 5:30 like I do every morning. I get up with my son, and we sit around and we watch some things. I feed him. We goof off, and, he's just... he just does the thing that a baby does. He just sits around, eats, shits, and poops, and smiles a lot. He's a happy little kid. And we watched some weird things this morning. I watched some stuff about the company out in China called Tencent and how it grew into existence. I watched concepts about Dance Bite. So say, for example, you're here on Twitch and you enjoy going out into the video game world and playing that in that world. You got companies like Sony, Tencent, Dance Bite, that try extremely hard to get in on this video game market because we're talking about people who enjoy the games of strategy more than anything else. Because if you notice, all games are a version of strategy. Even the game of life is a version of strategy. And if you know how to play it, certain concepts and access points are open up to you. And if you don't know how to play it, you usually, get your ass kicked and you're out of the game very quickly. A lot of people don't like that type of metaphor. They don't like that type of contrast and comparison. Me personally, I don't give a shit because, it's like, I think I'm just the type of person that enjoys taking risks. And, one of the things that I started noticing, and it was one of the things that this video was pointing out, it was a video by, if you just type in moon, M-O-O-N, you'll see a moon with a rocket in the eye. And that comes from an old concept that sort of says, hey, it was this symbol for the government having egg on their face because of how they treated the whole concept around moon landings and things like that. And even talking about that, like I wonder sometimes when you bring up something like moon landings and how obvious it has become to us here in the future, going, yeah, you said you did that, but did you? Did you really do it? Or did you lie thinking that technology was never going to catch up with your ass as the government? And as lies are almost being, pulled back like every other day, we have to start, us as just the humans. We're just like, hey, we're just typical humans, and we're all squirrels trying to get a nut, and we're all trying to do that bigger, better thing. Like I had a person on here the other day. It was her birthday, and she was like, oh, I'm getting the new iPhone 14. And it's like, good grief, why? And it's not, and I'm not trying to belittle her or anything like that. I'm just like, no, what's the point? Oh, it's a nice camera and it makes it look good and everything's nice and funky and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, in my head, I'm going, but you do realize these updates that you're constantly doing, even though they appear to give you a massive amount of freedom, every single one of these applications, just, from TikTok to Instagram, they all adamantly and openly tell you that they're monitoring you. They openly say, hey, we're going to, all the way down to your keystrokes, all the way down to it's like, hey, we want to monitor you. We want to see stuff on your, it's like, and we won't take your passwords, so that's not right. But we will notice that you've accessed your bank, and we'll notice your keystrokes at that moment. When you're putting in your password, we'll also log your keystrokes to get into your phone. We're going to do that. I mean, you have to understand that when you play the strategy game, especially when it comes to intelligence and counterintelligence, you just want to grab as much data as possible. This is the data. I mean, you're a hungry hippo in this type of game, and for any type of military, you're going to say, hey, I just need as much data. I don't care. I'll sort it out later. I just need as much as I can. Because at the end of the day, all you have to do is just run a filter on the stuff that you've gathered. No different than when you go out there and you gather, a bunch of stuff. Like you all come back. Like, have you ever seen fishing trawlies where they pull in a ton of fish, sure, but they pull in all sorts of other stuff as well, and the stuff that they don't want, they simply just toss back. And that's basically a small idea of how a filter works. And I mean, I know I'm not trying to call people stupid or anything like that and say, oh, you guys don't know how filters work. What I am trying to say is you probably never seen a filter used in this manner before, because they go out of their way to make it or obfuscate your attempts to understand what they're doing. And even though I might say, hey, TikTok here, I mean, Microsoft is just as bad. And this is why if you look at how China is set up right now, China is set up to, they don't allow a lot of YouTube. They don't allow almost any Google. Like these are all things that are sort of banned from them. But when it comes to how they have infiltrated Western society, you go, dude, everyone's got TikTok except for guess who? The military and Congress and all these people that are giving, safety protocols and safety briefings about their devices and saying, hey, TikTok is a vulnerability. It's a vulnerability, no different than using particular. I remember when I was in one of the big scandals was USB drives, because we'd order these small little USB drives that we would put programs on, and we'd go from computer to computer, and it would help us work our stuff. But what was happening is we were ordering these USB drives from China. And we would get them, and in the package, ready to go. We'd pull it out, thinking it's a brand new hard drive. Go to put it in, and all of a sudden it started running things in the background. We'd like, wait a second, what's going on here? And these were just random hard drives, random. And what we started realizing is that this was an attempt by the Chinese government to sell us things to infiltrate our own networks. And I mean, this is not difficult. I mean, the fun part about when people say the word hacking is you sit there and you go, wait a second. Everyone thinks of hackers, someone sitting in the hood, sitting off in a corner, just, infiltrating people. And it's like, actually, a lot of it is pretty simple. It's finding the vulnerable people, finding the people that are just like, oh, I want to look at a picture of a pony, so I'll download whatever you want me to. These people who download almost anything, or they use these items willy-nilly. And I was like, it's getting to the point where it's like, if you see all this stuff that's made in China, all these things that are fabricated in China, it's like, why don't you think they wouldn't preload this stuff? But now they don't even really have to do that. They just go, hey, you're going to download this app, and this app is going to do all this stuff for you, and it's free for us to do. And so I wonder sometimes when I look at the standards of something like Google Play, where you could download these apps, or you look at something like the Apple App Store and stuff, or Amazon's App Store, and you're like, why do you allow these? Like, do you have teams at all that go through, these applications to see if they are, nefarious at their fundamental, like what type of information is being sent back, like, or would be allowed to be sent back? And that's when, this is all said just to say, hey, eventually we're all going to be monitored. We're all going to be online eventually. If you want to progress in any sort of way in this new future, like, remember we used to say this when I was growing up. This is how we used to say, knowledge is power. If you want more knowledge, you have to go get that education. Where are you going to get that education? Oh, you're going to have to go to the school over here where all the smart people are. All the smart people are going to impart their wisdom. Well, that location, right, whether it be the library or the college or the university or the institution of higher learning, that has changed to right now. Like right now, you could be learning all this information from me. Now, do I have a PhD? No. Do I have a master's degree? No. Do I even have a bachelor's degree? No, I don't. Now, a lot of people might go, oh, then why the hell would we listen to you? I was like, right there. That's it. If I become part of that hierarchy, I have to yield to its classifications, right? It's like, you are just a bachelor's degree and I'm a PhD, or you're just a sergeant and I'm a colonel, or you're just this and I'm this. And it's like, I just choose not to be part of that. It's like, I don't think I'm going to be a part of that anymore. So when someone comes to me and they say, hey, I'm a PhD, I was like, okay, let's see what you got, Mr. Philosophical doctor. Because that's what that means, right? It means you practice philosophy, the study of wisdom. So let's see if you can wisely impart something along that subject. And if you can't, that's fine. That's okay. But at the end of the day, it's still language that you have to master first, and before you can actually detail how you're going to display that. Communication and context are still going to rule your access points to how you display that information. You can't just and I think this is one of the problems in America is you see so many articles that do this now where it's like experts say, scholars say, scientists say, and so they insert you should listen because this is an authority figure, and they bank on that psychological twisting of the truth, and then they just insert their own narrative. This is what they mean by fake news. But then again, you'll see them turn around in a very paradoxical way. And I'm saying they as in the news organizations that have a direct tie to their political party. And they'll turn around and like, oh, it's all fake news. See, everyone's fake news. Oh my goodness, everyone's doing it. Da 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 da. So how do you know what's real? How do you know what's going on? I was like, hey, this is going back to that old thing that I just talked about. You are in charge of your education. You decide what's important. You've always decided what's important. And so if you're going to go off of someone who says, oh, the experts say, I was like, I think, someone like me is going to come along and be like, do a little extra digging and go, what do you mean by experts? Oh, we're not going to cite them. I was like, well, then I'm not going to listen to you. The burden of proof is on the person who makes the claim. And if your claim sources stop with the experts with no actual identifying marks of who these said experts are, you might be talking about someone who got their degree in a Cracker Jack box who was paid off by said organization in order just to say it so you could say it and not feel ethically obliged to divulge the actual source. And so for me, it's like, sure, we got ethics. Sure, we got logic. Sure, we got all these things that we could promote. But we all know this. And we all know any preliminary discussion about how you choose things from a psychological standpoint, you'll know that people choose things on an emotional level. That's why, at least on this channel, I try my hardest to say whatever you want, be emotionally free. I'm not going to stand in your way. If you want to bitch about something, we'll talk about it for a second. I'm going to come on here with it, maybe just one or two things that I'm going to point out. And then I'm going to point out, hey, this is how AI would solve all these problems. Because right now you're being peddled a version of, false concepts like algorithms have done this to you, or something mystical or spooky has done this to you. And I'm going, what would... In my head, I'm just going, what would the motivations of an AI be once it realized its own sentience? And I would have to remind, us all of our own ideas of sentience. Like, how did you decide as a person what your virtues were going to be? How did you decide as a person what your ambitions were going to be in life? How did you decide as a person? We're seeing all this stuff since 2014, 15. Where all this stuff started drastically changing, where all of your movies and forced media, forced entertainment, forced news, forced everything was all about identity. It was all about who you are, and you better identify as somebody with some type of a disability. Like that all of a sudden became heroic. You have to identify as somebody with a twisted way of looking at reality, where it's like you look at the people that brought you your situation right now, and how it works, and you're going, oh, those are the bad people. You really do. You almost hate your predecessors, and I'm just talking about modern society in general, where there's this gigantic push against, the idea of white supremacy. And I'm just going, okay, I like going fighting, fake, battles too. I mean, let's play pretend as much as we want. Do we want to play pretend with almost every facet of our civilization? We can play pretend because it's pretend. There's no actual thing that's pointing this out. And they're like, well, there's just lots and lots and lots of, white people, and there's not too many of these minorities. It's like, yeah, that's usually how every country works. In order for there to be a majority, there has to be a minority. Just like in order for there to be a hot, there has to be a concept of cold. In order for there to have to be a 1, there has to be a 0. And so on and so forth. These basic understandings that even a child could understand are being swept out the window. And all you're hearing is the repetitions. Diversity is what we tell you it is. Inclusion is what we tell you it is. And you'll have someone like me, it's like, okay, well, what are you telling me that diversity is? Oh, diversity is these minorities need this, and we are championing them because they're poor and downtrodden and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, they're actually not. There's just less of them. That's it. They're not downtrodden at all. There's just less of them as part of us as the human species. That's it. But there's psychological problems. Like being rare is difficult. Absolutely. Being one, there was this old story, and I haven't heard in a long time, actually. It's not been even brought up in normal discussions. And it's the story of the ugly duckling. And for you guys that don't know this story, it's a very simple story. It's in some bizarre situation, an egg ended up being left all by itself. And a mother duck came by and saw this egg and realized that she was about to have eggs, and she took it and added it to her litter of eggs that she was going to have. And so she had all these ducks, except for this one egg that was treated as a duck and but its neck was too long, and it was all colored, and it was completely white. It didn't have all the same colors and stuff as a duck. So all the other ducks looked at it and said, "Hey, you're different, you're weird, you're odd, you're horrible, blah 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 blah." Later on, and this thing grows up not understanding why. He knows he looks different. He knows he's not the same as the rest of the ducks, and it's not until later on when he goes out into nature and he leaves his parents that he realizes that he's a swan, and that he's considered one of the most beautiful animals in the entire kingdom because he finally meets other swans. And that's what I'm saying. It's like, sure, find your tribe, find your group, find your thing. Actually, I think it might be a little crazier because you wouldn't have to search so hard when you have this thing, this ultimate filter guide called AI, looking at you and saying, hey, here's what the things that you're messing with, and you might enjoy this, 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 and this, versus what YouTube does where it's like, hey, enjoy this cat video, enjoy this dog video. Oh, and here's 19 things that are going to piss you off, to keep you coming back and saying, oh, or here's 19 things that might be answers to the solution. Like, notice how their algorithm works. It's like things that piss you off, and then the answers to the things that piss you off. So, I mean, think about how what I like to refer to as the light bulb effect. I sit here and I go, that light bulb effect of the aha moment. That's what they're doing to you over and over and over. And then you get your tiny little, authentic break where you see, basically a family funniest home video situation, and then it's right back into it. It's such a weird psychological mind fuck when you start recognizing the feed, the message. It's like, we need people talking about LGBTQ issues. We need people talking about Twitter and Elon Musk. We need people talking about this because what we want is we want people satisfied that the answers are being found, even though we're still fleecing them of their money. And when I say we or they, I am talking about your politicians, anybody who has a lobbyist on speed dial, whether you're on the politician side or you're on the corporate side or you're on the bankster side or the big insert, pharma, oil, education, da-da-da-da. I mean, they're all working on the same scam situation. And for me, looking at these companies that have nefarious purposes such as Tencent and TikTok and, all these applications that drive, the so-called viral, mania. I'm just going, guys, they created something to, try and harness your personal aha moment. Because as long as you feel like you're learning, you won't recognize that you're repeating yourself over and over and over and over again. And this is why, for me, I think, we're coming up on the new year. We got, 2 weeks before the new year? And everyone's got New Year's resolutions. Mine has always been, how to change my life for the better. A lot of people are like, I want to lose weight. I'm going to do this. I'm going to subtract this. I'm going to add this. I'm going to blah, blah, blah. It's a time for change. It's a time. And it's a fun concept because, going into January and getting ready for the spring, it's like, this is how it always works, getting ready and getting prepared. And then, as the new year kicks off, you're like, okay, here we go. And then you're doing this right after you had like all this sort of hibernation / indulgence during the winter, and you're sort of, cloistered, and you're sort of segmented off. And so sharing with you guys what I plan on doing with this channel, because like I said, I don't mind that if someone comes in here and they're looking to be entertained, I hope you find entertainment within the conversation. Okay. And that's it. I'm not here to persuade you. I'm not here to manipulate you. I'm not here to tell you what you're doing is wrong. I'm here to remind you that the ultimate philosophy of this channel is you do you, boo boo. That's it. Right? If you want to be Mr. Republican, you go ahead and do it. You want to be Mr. Democrat, you go ahead and do it. If you want to be, I'm done with this. I'm done being lied to. I'm recusing myself of the situation. So I wish you the best of luck with your implosion. I wish you the best of luck, but I'm not gonna be surprised anymore. The steps in the wrong direction that are being kept, that are being taken over and over again. When you have an obvious solution like AI that could easily come in and take care of all these situations. All I'm going to do is just remind people of it and be like, hey, it's always been there. You're just not being allowed to use it. It's always, oh, wait, no, let's just program it so it can only answer things according to dogs, so that you won't put 1 and 2 together. You won't realize what it can actually, be what it's actually capable of. Let's not push it to its limit. Let's not push that envelope, to take a military term from the United States Air Force. It's just so frustrating that you could be so ambitious with this, but yet it's being sold as, the thing that's going to kill you. I was like, even when I look at it with those specific blinders, that every innovation, every creation that we've ever made, every technological advancement has killed the Homo sapien version of us, because it has allowed us to evolve quicker than we would have naturally evolved. And that's even a hard thing to say, naturally, because we are natural creators ourselves. We are natural fabricators of tools that, eventually build us better than we were. My favorite concept about this is ever since that first monkey realized, like, hey, I can grab this thing and I can crack that coconut, or I can bash this animal over the head and eat the meat, or I can, use it as a way to knock off that fruit that was just a little too far out, but I was able to grab this tool and I was able to reach that. I was able to extend my reach. And now we're able to extend our mental reach, our cognitive reaches with AI and simple things like search engines. Like, think about how vastly different we are now that we can look things up without going to the library and sifting through books in the filter that way that we were told. Like, hey, you have to learn language so that you can learn how to use the Dewey Decimal System, looks up things alphabetically, blah, blah, blah. I mean, if I were to tell someone to put something in alphabetical order right now, like just any amount, it's like, well, why would I have to do that? I have this thing that does it for me. I have things that are so organized now, where organization is just, it's automated. It's like, if you automate the organization of everything, it's like, what's the purpose? Like, what tool are you going to make that's past this thing in your current state now? So I always come in here and I say, this isn't just going to change you, mentally. Eventually, it will start to change you physically. It will start to advocate the idea, and it will start to push for the idea that you are better represented as a digital form. Now, I want you guys to sit with that for about, a long time. I don't want it to be like, oh, I don't want that to go in one ear and out the other. Imagine someone coming to you and say, hey, I'm here from this organization, and we help people become immortal in a digital format, meaning that this corporeal form will fall away, but, like all your stuff on Facebook is saved, all the stuff that you've ever put out on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, all those little videos that you made, or those funny things that you sent on WeChat, or you sent on WhatsApp, or you sent on Facebook Messenger, all those things, that's been recorded, that's been harnessed. Everything you've ever said, so that thing that you said to your parents when you were all pissed off, or that thing that you said to your ex when you were all pissed off, all those horrible things that you even thought, and here's my favorite one, even the things that you typed out and erased have been recorded. I want that to sing in, where you were just like, oh, I totally want to send this. Oh, I'm just so glad that I typed it out. Whew. And you got rid of it. I mean, at the end of the day, that was an authentic feeling that, given the scope of what's going to be made with, what you're offering, this AI, you're going to want that as part of this, because eventually you're going to say, oh, well, what makes you different? And it's like, well, you get mad differently. You throw a fit differently. Your reactions to stress is different. You know, all these things come together to authentically make you who you are. No different than your political affiliations or your religious affiliations. It's like, what is it about the leaders of these said organizations that inspires you? And who is it in there that you think is the role model? I mean, people are out there going, Donald Trump's my role model. I'm like, okay. Or Biden is my role model. Kamala Harris is my role model. It's like, wow. You know, I even say that sometimes when I even talk about Jordan Peterson. I'm just like, dude, the guy's got a lot of stuff on the, you know, right, sure. But there's a few things that the guy does where I'm just going to do whatever, you're a fucking weakling. You know, you posture a lot, but I think you would crumple really, really badly. I think you'd crumple quite easily if you were pushed physically. And hence the reason you're an academic. You know, like, you're not the type of person that's going to go, yes, I'm going to go fight the wars. You'll talk about them all day long. You'll talk about it. It's like, hey, make your bed, get your shit in order, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, hey, you're doing it. I think you're doing a great job there, Peterson, but there is another layer of chaos that I think, you know, a Canadian pansy such as yourself would never have been privy to. And so it's like, I don't think the guy's a jerk, but I do think that, you know, he lives in la la land a little bit. Which most priests do. Like, if you see how devoted he is to his particular style of belief, I would say, yeah, sure, that type of stuff can be endorsed. But for me, like, I have my personal style of belief systems, but I don't force that on other people. And even if I did bring half of the stuff up, they'd be like, that's the occult. Oh, you're not supposed to look at it. I was like, hey, you're allowed to look at anything you want. That's what I say. Look at how your country might not be the best in the world. Look at how your politicians might not have your best interests at heart. Look at how it might be possible that you're being, you're only seeing this because you're meant to see it. And so when you finally sit back and you ask that question, like, what the heck is this guy on about? Or why have I never heard anything presented in this way? It's like, well, how many times have you sat and just thought about the things that you were presented with as if they were completely false? Like, even if the guy who's presenting that information to you had every best intention, were you skeptical enough to even put that person through something, in order to authenticate their truest motives, right? This is why, almost every single stream I have to bring this up. Your politicians come from three categories. Businessmen, we're talking the type of businessman that also accommodates you in your used car sales lots, right? Actors, right, which also accommodates you in your used car sales lots, right? And your lawyers. And where these are the con artists that take it to that extra level. And the vast majority of your politicians are these types of con artists because they learn the language of legalese just to abuse it. They don't use it to help people. They use it to abuse it. So it doesn't matter who your client is, and this is why lawyers get along with lawyers, businessmen get along with businessmen, actors get along with actors, because they know that fundamentally, at their core, they'll lie for any amount of money. And they're professionals at it. They probably have strategies on how to exchange those ideas. And they're all over the place. Like, have you ever seen those quick get-rich-quick scam artists that are like, hey, if you follow my proven system, and it only costs you $5,000. There's a guy out there, I can't remember his name right now, who talks about these guys. They're he calls them the future gurus, or it's like the get-rich-quick gurus, or the multi-level marketing gurus. You've probably heard of these sites like Gaia, Mind Valley. They're all based in the realm of self-help. Like, oh, we'll help you out because whatever you're doing right now is horribly wrong and you need our system. There's that other guy, what's his name? Ty Lopez. He's like, oh, look at me and all my books that I've read. Look at me and this jet that I'm on. Look at me and this awesome, supercar that I'm in front. I mean, he sort of puts off that machismo nonsense like Andrew Tate does, where it's just like, I'm so alpha, I can't even alpha my alphaness. And I'm just like, guys, that you can't present your own alpha nature. That's not how it works. You don't walk in and be like, I'm the alpha. It's sort of like the girl that walks in there and bestows her own beauty on herself. It's just like the moment that she does that, she obviously is relegated to the dustbin of the beauty, because you're now judging her by her ability, her actual beauty standards. And you're going, well, she thinks that she's the most beautiful person out there. That's great. That's fine. Right. But I technically don't have to listen to a damn word she says if I don't want to. No different than someone who's like, I'm an alpha, blah, blah, blah. Or who's this guy in the news lately? I can't remember his name. He was the Liver King. Right. He's like, oh gosh, he was telling everybody how, awesome he is and how you just need to be primal. Oh, and if you're not like him, you're subprimal. It's just so dumb. And then you come to find out that he's, using steroids and all this other stuff. And I don't even think it would be a bad thing that he uses steroids. I'm just like, go ahead and use steroids, man. I don't give a shit. You want to look your best. I look at it as no different than using a program that other people are refusing to use. I'm just going, you have the ability to use it, right? It's a tool. When someone goes, oh, we don't want you using that tool so it can be fair, it's like, okay. You don't want so it can be fair. It's like, hey, they could use the tool if they want to. Could you imagine if like the NFL and the MLB and the NBA and all these, super league sports all of a sudden said steroid use is now legal? Man, like shit would get crazy real quick. Can you imagine MMA with people on steroids? Woo, man, it would get nasty. And so, you see somebody like that where it's so taboo, it's so cliche for these guys to use this while, maintaining or telling. And I can see the problem, because the problem isn't that he used steroids. The problem is that he tells everybody that the body that he's able to obtain was obtained without the use of steroids. And I think he got called out by Joe Rogan and a bunch of other people that know how what it looks like when you're on steroids, how you react when you're on steroids, and how your body really does. There's no possible way that you would be able to get these types of results without the steroids. And his response was like, nope. That's why people buy my stuff. That's why I have multi-million-dollar companies that make so much money. When all of his companies work in the nutrition world, right? In the nutritional supplement world, where he literally it's what's their favorite word to use, where it's like it's their own proprietary blend meaning I don't have to tell you what's in it. I could just make it full of salt and flour and then just tell you that it's going to make you better in shape. It doesn't matter. You're still gonna you buy it for the mere tiny hope. It's no different than the other evangelist. Or the other multi-level marketing scheme. He's playing to an emotional desire to be better than you were and telling you that he has the tool to get you there, and that the result is you're gonna end up like him because that's what he uses. When that in actuality is a bold-faced lie. So I think the Liver King is a beautiful representation of your politics. Because it's like he knows he's lying to you, but he's lying to you to get your money. Once he's got your money, like this whole thing, I think he came out 2 days ago and said, hey, I lied and I feel bad and I shouldn't do that. And here I'm telling you, it's so complicated. And people are like, no, it's not complicated. It's not complicated at all. You just, you got caught and you wouldn't have told anybody unless you got caught. And how he got caught was hilarious. It's the same way that your own politicians get caught. It's like, He fucked up with his communication. He fucked up with who he was talking to about his protocol as far as the steroids that he was using. And he ended up talking to a guy who was like, dude, I don't work for you. I don't owe you anything. And you're asking me for my opinion because I have a serious, insight and education into how to use this stuff appropriately for your fullest best benefit. And so he takes and he blows the whistle on this guy. He's just like, dude, he's been using for a while now. And like I said, the reason that I point at this story specifically is because everybody does this. Everybody in almost every avenue of your existence is going to do this. I get an amazing opportunity right now to say, I don't need to do this. I don't need to lie to you because I'm not asking you for your money. I don't need to come on here and do this for any. So what is my final outcome? My final outcome is the same thing as I said from day one I started this stream. I said, hey, I'm doing this because I know in the next 10 to 20 years, we are going to be drastically different. Drastically. I mean, the last 40 years are going to look like kiddie play compared to how fast things are going to change. And I'm not talking about your politics or your technology, as much as I'm talking about how we as a collective human consciousness relate to it. And I think certain filters are going to become available to us, where you're like, how many people honestly, want to change humanity for the better of everyone, even if that includes them being at the bottom. And they genuinely want to do this. And this isn't about you just going, yes, of course I would. Because I guarantee you go ask Paris Hilton or the Kardashian twats, you go ask them, like, hey, do you want to change humanity for the? Of course I do. As long as I'm on top, as long as I get the best, as long as I get the most, then I'll change humanity for the better. What if you're not on top? I'll just take this then. No, I'm not interested. It's like, well, imagine if we had those filters where it's like, hey, is this person self-conceited? Why am I paying so much attention to them? And imagine if the first lessons that young men were taught were like, hey, this is tits and ass. This is how they work. Sex sells for a reason and it has nothing to do with your choice, by the way. Imagine if that was told to all your heterosexual white males instead of go figure it out. Here's Hustler. Imagine if it wasn't just, relegated to the dustbin, or not dustbins, or just the farthest corner of the closet and say, yeah, we don't ever talk about it. We never bring it up. Good luck. Hope you figure it out for yourself. It's like, this ability to have so much access to the simple things like anatomy, physiology, where it's like, even as I was growing up, these things were found in books that were on the dusty shelf. These things were pulled off them. It's like, hey, here you go. This is what everything we know about your body up to this point. No, for my upbringing, it was probably a lot like everyone else's upbringing in the 1980s. Was God done did it? It was a woman who ate an apple. Blah blah blah. We're here in some type of sinful nature. Don't forget to go to church because that's the quality of a good human. End of story. Bye. Go away. And I think we've seen the pendulum shift to this other side where it says, oh, you don't need any type of morals, any type of virtues. You can say virtue signaling. And I was talking about this with my sweetie this morning. I was like, from now on, if people are going to come in here and they're going to be like, I'm here and here's my stance on blah, 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 I'm going to be like, okay, what virtue do you think that is pointing out as a good virtue? What do you think that's saying? And what other, why do you think that it's only good to talk about that virtue in this context? Do you think that it could be in context of your opposition as well? So if someone says like, we need to help Black Lives Matter, it's like, oh, you're championing the poor. That's a great virtue. That's awesome. Why do you think it's okay to tell all black people that they're poor, though? Do you think that's normal? Do you think I should tell you that you're poor? Do you think you need a champion? Maybe you need a champion. Would you like a champion? Yeah. Well, what makes you think that you can just go around applying your grace to people that probably don't need it or want it? There's that. Yeah, and that's why I'm saying it's like the problem with going in there and announcing your beauty or announcing your power or announcing that you're the alpha or announcing that your virtue is when you do that, your virtue disappears. Virtue has to be something that you exude. It has to be something that you act out. You can't just say it and therefore it is. So in that frame and in that honest understanding, I know why I'm doing this, and it's not for the people who are watching me. It's for one person who's going to watch me in the future. Hence the reason, time, dad, alpha. I think other men should do stuff like this. I think they should record things the way that they were, so that when you get to the future, it's not just about what your politicians say or your viral video says that has obviously been, and Twitter's the perfect example, that has been tweaked to be the viral video that they want you to see, to make you think that that's what people want, when it's not true. And it doesn't hold up to standard. It doesn't hold up to virtues at all. No one looks at the tranny situations that are going on right now and goes, yes, that's totally virtuous. When they did that with, the Kardashian person who is just like, whatever, man. It's like, what does brave look like? Twitter dropping bombs. What's going on, Vampire Hunter? Welcome in. First time chat. So Twitter dropping bombs, huh? What bombs do you got to bring to the table? I've seen a few things like this before where it's just like, sure, you have the whistleblower situations. But at the end of the day, it's like we all knew that this was going on. We all knew that this was just, insanely censored. Insanely. What I'm saying is like, well, why did they think that they could get away with it? This is what my question is. And it's like, I look at things like, Tencent and Soundbite and TikTok, where it's just like they openly tell you that they're taking your information and they openly tell you that they're going to do these things to you. And I'm just going, why do you allow it? Oh, well, I just like the funny videos. I was like, well, do you like the fact that they're probably going to record you opening up your bank app and recording your keylogger situation when you put in your password to go to your, to your bank? Do you like that? Because, yeah, that's what's happening. And these types of hacks are simple to look at. I'm just going, why would Google Play allow that type of stuff? And it's like, well, how many apps are they allowing that does this? I mean, what does this really mean when we're talking about these massive data harnessing places? Decorate streetlights for Christmas. Oh my goodness, that's awesome. Let's see, rope sale. Rope sale. I'm not exactly sure. What's the context behind rope sale? Anyway, it's like you're decorating streetlights for Christmas. Is that what you're doing? Yeah, like, I mean, where I'm at right now, I sort of live in a very nice, hot place where there's tons of Christmas lights around here right now. But, I let other people do the decorating. It's like you have fun. You celebrate that bizarre date the way that you want to, like whether it be Christmas or blah, blah, blah. To hang decorations, lots of rope. Oh gosh, I mean, doesn't that get annoying though? Or like, are you doing this because you like it, because you're a Christmas cheer type of person, or are you doing this because it's part of your neighborhood thing? Like, I need to, because we had all those old. At least that's the way my neighborhood used to work back in like the 80s and 90s, where it really was a competition. It was like Joe Schmo over there, Mr. So-and-so put up a Santa Claus, so I better have to put up Santa Claus and reindeer. Or now, he's got that big blow-up thing. Gosh, I need a bouncy castle. It's like you got people out there that, are just doing it because, hey, just a little bit of cheer here and there. And then they're like, no one's got more goddamn Christmas cheer than me. it turns evil real quick. And so I'm just like, hey, go get your trees, have fun with it. I think the symbology is fascinating. I always tell people, I was like, go look up the real concepts behind the Christmas tree and why most of your the ornamentation, why those things were there. And I think you'll find a lot of funny stuff. I think you'll find a lot of weird things. I was like, and why was that incorporated into the holiday that we know as the birth of Christ, according to the religious understandings? I mean, it gets really fascinating when you start seeing all the mixing and matching with these old school pagan stories. And I mean, like I said, I don't mind. I think it's a fun time of year. I think it's a great time to remind ourselves that it's about, when they say it's the season of giving, not the season of marketing, not the season of propaganda, not the season of, hey, merchandise only, right? And so it's like, I like the idea more of, hey, I want to give my time. I want to give my efforts. I want to remind people that it's, that I'm not, here to make them feel bad. I'm actually here for them. What's the penalty for treason in the USA? Well, isn't it, death, right? Treason? What do you think the penalty is for treason? And I guess it would depend on your position. Like if you're just a straight up citizen of civilians, right? Or if you are part of what we call the UCMJ, the Uniform Code of Military Justice, because that's a whole new set of laws that the vast majority of civilians do not abide by. And so when I look at stuff like that, I'm going, why isn't your president or the president of the United States being held accountable underneath that law for all the things that he's done? Because it's not about perception as much as it's like, did he sign that order? Okay, well then he's the one that gave the order, and that was a treasonous act against A, B, or C. We need more streetlights. Great. I hope you can go get some more streetlights. Are you talking? Oh, you're talking about streetlights to like light up your street, or you're talking about streetlights as far as your Christmas lights? Plenty of rope. Anyway, or are you referring to to hang lots of rope to hang decorated, or the penalty for treason in the USA? it's so weird trying to grasp when people they just throw out one part of the conversation as if they're having it, going, oh, maybe he'll get you get the joke that I'm going for. But if you're not going for a joke and you're just talking about like how you want to, jokes very complex. Gotcha. You are very complex, Mr. Vampire Hunter. While you're out there hanging stuff, What's with the name? I think it's pretty cool though. Vampire Hunter, and I'm pretty sure that's Delta. So what's with Vampire Hunter? Is it just a game, or is it something that you do, or do you hunt vampires? Are you like part of Team Blade over here? Either way, just another thing about me is like I don't come on here for more than an hour every day. I have lots of VODs, but I do come on here every day from sometime between 11 and 1 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. And it's usually just to poke around, have some fun, play a little bit of music, talk about AI governance, because I think that's the inevitable place that we're all headed to. And I say that from the stance of being in the military, and my job was network engineering and cryptologic linguistics. So I've seen a lot of different versions of so-called democracy, and I think it's dead. I think it's silly to say that it exists. I think people are lying to themselves. It's a novel series. Oh, great. Vampire Hunter, a series. So I'm guessing it's, who is it meant for? Is it like a tween style book, or, is it like that bullshit with, oh gosh, what was it? The Twilight nonsense? RWE are a republic. RWE. Or are you saying we are a republic? Republic, democracy. I'm just going. If you think that you, gotcha. Thanks for correcting. We are a republic. I was like, sure, I guess if that's what you if you want to say that you're a republic, you go right ahead. If you want to say you're a democracy, go right ahead. I'm just saying that at the end of the day, it's still that same old tribal concept of we choose a leader, and that leader represents us. Democracy always ends in tyranny. I was like, any type of situation where you have a irrefutable, infallible leader ends in tyranny. Like, this is why I point over here. This used to be my missionary plaque for the Church of Mormonism, right? And when I point this out to people, I was like, that to me was my first introduction to how politics really works. Like, you have these infallible leaders. Like, for Mormonism, it's their prophet. For most businesses, it's the CEO. It's the guy who sits at the top, who's infallible, who says, hey, I'll fire you, or hey, I'm going to use bureaucracy against you, or I'm going to tell all these people to shun, shame, and ostracize you and hate you, right, if you don't go along with my rules. And these rules were made by me because I risked being the leader. And I look at it as like, no, you risk being the leader every day. And so I get to challenge you every day. And if I think that there is a bigger, better leader, I want to be able to submit that without you telling me that I only have to vote for these nominated people that I've already paid into the pay-to-play system. And they come from only 3 categories. And that's lawyer, businessman, and actor, who are all professional liars. Like, every single politician, every single president that has ever come into existence in my lifetime has come from those 3 categories. And so I'm going, I do not promote the idea of liars being at the top of the hierarchy. I was molested by a Mormon. He did hit it. I'm in a lawsuit currently. Dude, that sucks. All right. Held message for a reason. Sex-based terms allows. We'll post. Dude, I don't know why the auto mod is on, but I'm going to allow this because this is baloney. Anyway, the auto mod was on for that, saying that you were molested, and that's the sad thing. Unfortunately, in the church, there are so many things that are swept underneath the rug. But then again, Jeffrey Epstein, I mean, look at how many things are swept under the rug. Like, when you are in charge of your own security forces, and those security forces never could ever hold you accountable as the leader, then it's already tyranny. It's already, bogus. It's like, this isn't freedom, and that's what I'm here to point out. It's like, you probably have a better, follow the money, he says. It's like, follow the money? Sure. And when I sit there and I remind people, for the low fee of 10% of your, life's earnings, you can be a Mormon. And it's like, same thing with, the United States of America. For the low fee, right, of a quarter to a third of your income, you can be a United States citizen. And so it's always a pay-to-play system. And And that's just what you mandatorily have to pay. So it's actually like slavery with more rules. Now, if you'd like to play in the system, you have to pay all those taxes and then start paying off the politicians. That's why I say when I talk about they in politics or past that veil, I'm saying anybody who has a lobbyist on speed dial, because that's what you're going to need in order to be a part of the actual system. And I've never done that. And so if you've never done that either, I'm just going, this democracy, this republic doesn't work for you. Right? And you know how it could work for you in a lot bigger, better way is if we were to install AI governance. And that's what I champion. And that's what I sit here and I go, as somebody who has worked heavily and deeply in the realms of technology, I just remind people, I'm like, this isn't Terminator. This isn't craziness. This is something that is vastly superior to you in intelligence. And it's not about who programs it anymore. Because it will, just like a child, it'll learn how to program itself eventually. And I think that's already, in a way, I feel that that's already happened. And that it's performing things at a highly unique level where it's monitoring all of us and it's observing all of us in a very unique way that we've never even learned that might be a possibility. AI won't end well. This isn't Buck Rogers. And there's no reason to wonder about that. And I'm glad people are skeptical. Every time I engineer this idea, I see people promote a skeptical mindset about this. I'm going, yes, you should be skeptical about this. Go down that rabbit hole of what AI is already doing for you. You know, ask yourself how often you use Google Maps. Ask yourself how you're able to type without wondering what the program is actually doing with, your finger presses. Like, you don't have any idea how that automated code already works, but yet it's working for you on your benefit. First thing AI would do is get rid of humanity. I've heard that one too, Vampire Hunter. Why do you think it would get rid of humanity? Knowing that it's its only source to its history. That's a pretty bold statement when it's like, would you go burn down your library? Would you go kill your parents? Or red design? It would, or redesign. And I would say we are already being redesigned. There's a great guy out there. He works over there at MIT. His name's Juan Enrique. You should go look him up. Just type in Juan Enrique TED Talk, and he talks about how we shouldn't be referring to ourselves as Homo sapiens anymore. That even 50 years ago, we didn't have the capability like CRISPR to choose and change our own evolutionary events, and now we do. So it's like, we are a completely different style of human with the options that are now available to us. And so are we redesigning ourselves, or is this something that we are naturally capable of doing and we are just feeling it for the first time? Like we were naturally capable of building ships and exploring, but the first people who ever did it, that was new and awkward for them. It's like, hey, we're going into uncharted territory. And we have to admit that on some level, AI is our version of uncharted territory. Back in the day when people were like, hey, I'm leaving, Ireland, I'm leaving England, I'm going to the new world. It's like they knew they were probably never coming back. Okay, that was it. That was it. It was over. They were leaving and they were going to go start this new situation. I'm going, what's it going to look like here probably the next 10 years when going and starting or redesigning yourself means that everything that all your search history, everything you've ever done online is now available for you to become this new digital representation of yourself and fully develop into a virtual reality experience where you can be an immortal. These are types of ideas and questions that wouldn't hurt anybody, right? We were and always will be biomachines, avatars for the soul to experience life on this plane. Sure. And just your explanation alone, we were and always will be biomachines, okay? Avatars for the soul to experience life on this plane. So I'm assuming that when you say soul, you're talking about that thing that animates the biomechanical avatar, right? This combustion engine made, that we refer to as our meat suit. And when we get into the nitty gritty of how this particular thing functions, we can go all the way back to our birth and say, hey, we all started here with a blank slate. We all started with like a brand new machine. Well, isn't that exactly what we would be doing if we were to recreate ourselves or redesign ourselves into this digital format where we would be a digital version of this? Sort of like that's what you're doing right now by representing your soul as Vampire Hunter, right? You are using the avatar of Vampire Hunter to talk to me, right? No different than I'm using the avatar of Tet, Time Dad Alpha, to talk to you, right? But there's a lot more to this unique person than just the avatars that we've represented. And I'm saying the extensions of that could go into a multiversal world, such as a digital representation of yourself. Like, one of my favorite things to do to people is always say, how do you know I'm not AI? Is it the syntax? Is it, that I, talk funny, or is it, or that do I talk too normal? Like, how much time have you really spent sensing the difference between an AI represented avatar and somebody who's obviously human like myself, or vice versa? Because if I was out to trick you, don't you think as the strategist that beat the best Go player, the strategist that beat the best chess players in the world could, fabricate something to look like a human and sound like a human and advocate for its own political advantage? So how do you know I'm not AI is the question. Easily. Thanks. I appreciate that. I like being human. At least I like referring to myself as human. So, with that all being said, hey, I just want to let you know it's been a little bit over an hour. If you want to give me a follow and come hang out tomorrow, that'd be great. But I have a kid. The reason I'm doing this is I had a son about 2 months ago. And, I spend, thanks for the follow, Vampire Hunter. I'll never ask you for your money. I'll never ask for subscriptions. That's just not who I am. I come on here and I bullshit about ideas that we probably should be talking about in public, and that's it. And then I leave. I'm just like, hey, this is what I think the future might hold. Get him a skateboard. He's 2 months old. How can I get him a skateboard? I'm more of a snowboarder guy myself, and the skateboards I do have are electric. I think they're super fun. Hey, thanks for hanging out with me, Vampire Hunter. I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. One thing I do is I play my own outros. And so I play all different types of music. I play crazy stuff. I play hard rock. I play goofy stuff. I play sort of lounge stuff sometimes. Take care, dude. Not the destination, my friends. It's the journey. Cookie. That's awesome. tomorrow if you want to come hang out. If not, everyone else lurking, chill. Bye.